let's talk about AI. Hottest topic, right? Biggest trend. I talk about it. I'm asked to talk about it in a lot of my presentations that I give. It's definitely one of the top 5 trends in our world. I'm sure it is in yours. Uh, let's just throw it out there. What do you think of AI? This is open and general a question as you could possibly get.
Yeah, it's well, I think I know again at and the Xerox event, I did quite a lot on AI and the opportunity and the changes and the risk around AI. And I think the challenge we have with AI is that it's such a big topic. And I think I mentioned earlier, so I did a computer science degree and I specialized in AI, and that was over 30 years ago, so it's not new. It's been around for a long time, but obviously chat GPT capture the public imagination, and we've all been using Google Bard, ChatGPT, Bing, and so on. And I think, as individuals, we're all familiar with using it, and I don't think there's very few people who've probably not used it for business as well. But I think what's happening now is that we're seeing a lot of AI washing, not just in the technology industry, but it's creeping up into the print industry. And I don't think anyone can really profess to be an expert on AI. It's just too broad a topic. And it's not just generative AI. You have the machine learning, natural language processing, and even sort of an IDP, which is intelligent document processing, which is document AI. So there's just so many fields of AI. So I don't think anybody, including myself, can be professed to be an expert in it. But it's interesting because I think it's quite good timing we're having this discussion, because obviously the Biden executive order just came out a few days ago. And going through that, I thought, well, this is great to get some regulation in place. And obviously, it's really a statement of intent in a lot of areas, but I do think there just need to be a lot more controls and guardrails between in how AI is used, because I'm particularly passionate about it as having a company that is based on content and thought leadership and research, which is in the public domain, which through AI could be potentially misused. And I did come across this a lot. We were discussing before in terms of ensuring that Quocirca content does not get misused and it doesn't breach copyright and so on. And I think with AI, that's going to be even harder to manage. But hopefully with things like the watermarking that was mentioned in the executive order, that will help mitigate that risk, because I think there's always going to be concerns on an ethical and responsibility basis in terms of how we use AI. And it's not, you don't want it to be a case of garbage in, garbage out, which I think, I've seen a lot of stuff out there which you can tell it's not the kind of original thinking. And I think that's what the danger is it's going to stifle original thinking, which is really what Quocirca is all about in terms of how we do our research and our thought leadership. And so that's my views in terms of the AI from a generative perspective. And I don't know if that's what you're seeing as well in terms of publishing a newsletter with a lot of content.
It's the ultimate tool as far as I'm concerned. What's interesting to me, first of all, by the way, I had no idea when we set this up that I had actually I will call you an expert. You have an actual degree in this. I don't think I've met anybody who has a degree that has anything to do with AI. So you win. You are the industry expert as far as I can tell. That makes this conversation even better. But back to the discussion, it's interesting to me how everybody uses it differently. Everybody's finding something, a different place in their business, in their life that they can use it. I've got two that I use quite a bit. I use the OpenAI website, and then I use Bing, because Bing will take me right online and get me instant information. They're both good at certain things and they're both terrible at other things. And we're so new to this. We use it for editing. I guarantee you people have noticed that there's a lot fewer typos in our content these days. For some reason, most people seem to think it's Jake. Since Jake came to work for us, we got rid of all these typos. I assure you, it's not really all Jake. It's the fact that we run this stuff through and make sure that it looks right and it sounds right. But other areas that it can be used there's just no shortage of places in your business. What kinds of things are you guys looking at where you find it helpful, either in your day-to-day or even in your business?
Yeah, so I think, when the main way I use it is the LinkedIn AI. There's sometimes a tool that comes up when I'm putting a post, and like you say, it just improves the post, makes it more concise. but I'm using my own kind of article and then just putting it into bullet points or something like that. So I would say that's probably the limitation of where I use it, but where I see the opportunity in the print industry in particular. So like you say, you can use it for marketing and content, but I think it has to be within those those guidelines and, to make sure it's compliant and it's original. But I think, in terms of the print hardware, there's opportunities around cyber security and using it within hardware to actually identify the devices being breached or needs to be patched. And, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. We just did an article on Cisco and Splunk and the acquisition around that. And that's all about AI observability. So, from that perspective, it's more on the device. And I think that's where the opportunity around AI is how it's going to be embedded in technology rather than just the kind of the usability that we were using it in terms of articles and content and so on. So I think, like you say, it's very, very broad, and we had a great.
It is broad. It is broad because I'm sitting here listening to you, tell me about all these different areas, and I'm thinking like these are completely different than what I use it for, right? And then what I use it for is completely different. The dealers that are watching this, where can they use it? Every aspect of their company, honestly. It's people look at this, and if you haven't tried it, if you haven't used it, it's overwhelming, it's scary, it's it's the doom and gloom. You start thinking Terminator stuff, and we may get there someday, right? But we're not there now. We're at the point where we were when in the 1800s everybody was working on a farm, right? And then what happened? They automated farming and people went to factories, and then what happened? People left the factories because they automated them, and we're now at a point where we're automating workflow and giving people more power to do more things with it. And so if you as a dealer, let's just look at the different parts of the dealer organization. You've got a marketing company. Where could you use it in marketing? Oh, I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Louella? Where could a dealer use it on marketing?
Yeah, so definitely in terms of marketing, absolutely you can use it to, if you write one piece of content, then you can use AI to repurpose that content and put it into different blog posts and, in terms of social media posts. And I think, like you say, it can be really used as a tool to improve productivity and improve the efficiency of those kind of processes, which in the past would have taken much longer. So I think from that, from a dealer perspective, but I think AI is just going to be so ingrained in how we work. So it's going to be like using Google.
It's like having an assistant. It's like, it's like having an assistant with you all the time.
Copilot, that's what Microsoft Copilot is all about, even for developers to use it and just to give you sort of recommendations. So you mentioned about the typos previously and that being improved. So Grammarly has been something that's been around for a long time, which has been AI based. It's not new, but it's got new capabilities, and Grammarly is really great for just making sure that articles are concise. People have got less time to read long, very sort of long, detailed content now. So I think, there's just a lot of opportunities around using AI for marketing, sales, customer service, and it's such a big topic. And so we're actually just about to publish a study on AI. So I'll definitely keep you posted, because we're looking at how IT users are using it and office workers and what their concerns around it, because I think there's still a concern about the accuracy of the information. And I think that's what we all need to be very cognizant of.
And again, that comes back to how you use it too, right? Like a dealer could, and yet one of the things you have to be careful of is the type that you're using, right? It's some of them are open, and your information goes, whatever you type goes right into the system, and everybody will then have theoretically access to it. But companies can get their own private, closed AI, closed chat GPT. And now you're in a situation where you're able to dump your information in, your data in there, and have it look at it. Like, you could dump your service records in there and have it look and evaluate, your techs, your technicians, and the efficiency of them, and who's better at what machines, and why is it taking this one long. AI is going to be able to look at numbers and charts and figure out anomalies that maybe you didn't see. Right. And so just the way to be able to use that for evaluating your own data, your own machine reliability information, your profitability, which machines aren't profitable, why aren't they profitable? And AI is going to be is able to go and look at that right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because actually, I think we have to really emphasize the fact it's based on historical data. So if you're looking at any data you've already got, dealers, like you say, can look at their, it can be used for financial analysis, predictive
Sure.
analytics, use case scenario, which is kind of what it's already been used for to a certain extent, but now the tools are much more user friendly to do that. But I think for anything, and particularly as an analyst, that's why we don't use it so much, because we're always trying to create opinion and be thought provoking and to come up with new ideas. And I think that's where you always need that human aspect to actually look at the data and then have a form of opinion. I think we were talking about it before. I think AI could lead to some lazy writing and stifle original thinking and innovation if you use it in the wrong way. So, from my perspective, I like you say, I see it more as a tool rather than something that's replacing tasks specifically.
It's super helpful. I think what I really have learned in the last few weeks, even and the learning is ongoing. Every time they come out with a new version, it ups what you can do and opens more doors and more thoughts as far as ways to use it. But this latest version this latest update where you're able to hit the internet. So I mentioned I'm using two different ones. It's very interesting to me how different the content is that comes out of it. The answers, one is hitting the internet for the answers, the responses right now. It'll tell me what the score of a local high school game my friend's kid was playing in. I want to know if they won the other night, and it was able to tell me that. I just asked, and it looked it up, but it's also only looking at certain sources. It doesn't get all the information, and it doesn't give me the in-depth evaluation that I get from the other one that only goes back to 2021 as far as data. So, and I imagine as you go from app to app to app and version to version, the discrepancy is huge, right? So you mentioned, which one do you use? Bard. I think you use Bard from Google. Bing is the new one that I just started using. So I'm curious to use Bard. But even I start thinking like even sales reps, right? Just how easy it is, to take my crappy proposal and I copy that and put it in the engine and just say, make this look better, make this look nice. And so it's got my information, it's got all the points I wanted to make. And you go through it, you have to read it, make sure it's correct, right? Because sometimes it'll take some liberties, but it's going to sound much better than what you did and much more professional. And then, by the way, when you go to do your next proposal, you drop the new information and it says, rewrite it with this information, rewrite it with this. And now, something that used to probably take you a half hour, an hour, a couple hours, even depending on how in depth this proposal was, takes you seconds, right? And now you've got
a really good application of using it. And I think probably the most risky way of using it is to create new content, because like you say, you don't know how accurate the feed is, the data that's it's being used to create that content. And also in that executive order from Biden, it had that one of the aspects was about watermarking content that's been generated using AI, and I'll be interested to see how that's going to be enforced. But I think that's at the moment.
Yeah, I'll be a little interested myself to see how that's enforced. But if there's rules in place, we've got to play by them, and that's makes it better for everybody in the end. So this was we could talk about this all day, but I'm sure you've got to get off to your next meeting, and we certainly do as well. Anything else? When did you say this next AI study is going to come out? When should we start looking for that?
Yeah, so that's coming out in the next few weeks. Well, the clients will receive it then, and then we publish it probably early December. And we've got our predictions coming out. I've got my crystal ball and start looking into what's happening for next year. So that'll be out soon as well. So yeah, it's a really busy time of year, but really interesting one with all the changes that are happening in the industry. And just coming up with some new thoughts and ideas on what's next for MPS providers, the OEMs and channel partners. So lots to look forward to.
Well, always a pleasure catching up with you. We will try to do it a little sooner this time rather than waiting as long as we did to get you on here. Nice use of all the what's happenings. I owe you what was $100 per what's happening, so at least $300 or $400 that you earned by doing this show. But all kidding aside, this was awesome. Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to have you on. And have a great rest of your week. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks, Louella.
Thanks.